Women's fashions are more than fabric, lace, and ribbons. In the clothing women wore and in the stories of their owners, we can trace the patterns of their culture, including how society viewed women and, in turn, how they viewed themselves. If you listen closely, the fabrics, lace, and ribbons can speak to you. This series explores the clothing and textile collection from Grinnell Historical Museum, a small museum located in Grinnell, Iowa. The human foot has remained unchanged for thousands of years, but what people have worn on their feet shows remarkable diversity. High heels and flat slippers, square toes and pointy toes, high tops and buckles, buttons and beads, laces and yarn, fabric and leather have all served to protect and adorn the human foot. But they also signify occupation, fashion, and status. Like people, every pair of shoes has a history. Take a moment and listen to the stories they have to tell. These boots were worn by U.S. Army Chaplain Homer Perry. He was with the 97th Infantry Division in Europe in World War II, and afterwards in occupation duty in Japan and Korea. They were witness to the horrors of war, as well as the courage that inevitably accompanies it. This shoe was worn by a Chinese woman with bound feet, reminding us of an unfortunate time in history when a 4-inch foot, known as a golden lotus, was considered a mark of beauty for women in that country. Her beautifully embroidered and hand-sewn cloth shoes hid her disfigured feet and were a mark of her status. A pair of Chinese man's shoes have a different story to tell, and a Chinese child's shoe seems to smile from top to hand-stitched bottom. Baby shoes were made of wool or the softest leather to provide warmth for tiny feet. Many of them were made at home, perhaps by the loving hands of mothers or grandmothers. Great care shines through the construction of these little shoes in tiny stitches, soft wool, and precious ribbons and lace. As those little feet grew, shoes became more substantial for walking, running, and playing. The 19th century was characterized by the predominance of black or brown boots for both men and women for everyday wear, and front lacing became the common closure by the 1860s. Slippers for evening wear were acceptable, and these soft kid slippers were worn by Mrs. B.S. Thompson at her wedding. But the high-top boots and the long skirts of the era can tell us a lot about attitudes regarding what was considered proper and acceptable for women. Apparently, showing any bare leg or ankle during the day was considered risque. This pair of women's lace-up boots hides a secret. One shoe is worn and one is not. Were crutches a part of this woman's life? The story of these shoes may never be known. Some boots are evidence of the hard work and daily use by their owners. These ladies' bicycle boots were worn by Annie Sanders during her nurse's training in Boston in the 1890s. Miss Sanders was a Grinnell College graduate who returned after her training to serve Grinnell for almost 50 years as a nurse. These boots were witness to Golda Baumgartner Miller's days spent teaching at a country school from 1921 to 1924. What interesting stories they could tell. These stylish men's shoes from the 1920s have never been worn and came to the museum from Arnold's Shoe Store in Grinnell. They are sleek and shiny, but no gentleman's feet ever wore them, so they had no opportunity to gather stories. It's easy for shoes to be underappreciated and overlooked, so they deserve these few minutes to shine. Take a moment to appreciate the artistry of the design, color, and materials in these shoes. There is beauty to be found in brown and black shoes, soft white kids' shoes, and embroidered silk shoes. And there are stories to be found in boots worn by soldiers, teachers, and nurses. We have only to look and listen.